This interview is part of the Empaths, Sensitives and Intuitives Summit of October 2022, a free online event. For more information, please visit evolvesempathsummit.com. This recording is a copyright of the Shift Network, all rights reserved. Please enjoy.
Welcome, all you beautiful sensitives and intuitives out there. We're so honored that you've joined us. I'm Bevan Neiman, one of the co-hosts of this event, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Dr. Christine Page, who's been called a metaphysical physician. She combines her skills as a doctor with her natural intuitive talents for the past 40 years. And Christine is passionate about helping people experience the full expression of their soul's essence, which she considers to be the true meaning of healing. Welcome, Christine. So happy to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you, Bevan. It's so good to be with your wonderful audience and to be back on shift. So I'm looking forward to this interview.
Yeah, so we're really going to dive deep, I think, into the intuition today, which is one of my favorite subjects. So I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. I wanted to start by asking you, one of the biggest challenges, perhaps, for empaths, HSPs, intuitives, is this desire to fit in. Right, to fit in. And, you know, we've all done a lot of different things to shift and chameleon ourselves to fit in. I'd love for you to speak a little bit more about, you know, why do we do that? Where is that? What's driving that underneath? And what can we do instead?
That's a great question. And as you say, most of us have done that in some way or other. I think, you know, being an intuitive from birth, I've never known any other way. And I'm sure lots of you listening have been the same way. You know how to read other people. So one of the things that we do, especially through our solar plexus, which I see as a great satellite dish, we learn from a very easy way, which is that here we are, our parents are smiling at us at 6 weeks, and we smile back and they go, oh, smile. You know, and then a little later on, we learn to laugh and they go, and I always think we have this tick list by us saying, smiling is good, laughing is better. You know, then they can't wait till we say the first word. And then we're being told to shut up because we're speaking too much. So it's like, this is a confusing world. You know, speaking's okay, but talking too much isn't. And it's the same with walking. Nobody can wait till we walk. We go, yay. And then it's like, stop running around, stay still. It's like, okay, this is confusing. So what we do is we use our satellite dish, our super sensitive, subconscious, psychic center, our emotional center, to work out how to fit in. What are the rules of this family? What are the rules of this culture? What are the rules of the world? And because we're so sensitive, we learn very quickly, how am I going to get approval? How am I going to score? And how do I avoid criticism and, even worse, sexual or physical abuse or emotional abuse? So the fitting in is often about survival. And using that scoring system that we're able to do as sensitives is I can actually change myself, as you said, chameleon myself, and change who I am in order not to be hurt, not to be put down, whatever it is that we're done. And across the world, there are different ways in which people find themselves having to either disconnect or hide, or ways in which we say this will keep me safe. The challenge is that we then abandon who we are. And we literally are, we could say, this part of me that's much more raucous and outlandish and extraordinary and weird. We say, I'm sorry, or even emotional. We say, I'm sorry, I haven't got time for you. You're just too much. And as an astrologer, I see that especially with people who have a lot of fire signs, which is Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. You're just too much. If you've got a lot of water signs, you're like always emotional. Stop crying. Stop being so intense. So we learn very quickly that those outlandish ways, which we would see very important to us, do not fit in with the rules of this family. And so we literally, as I say, we say, I'm sorry, I haven't got time for you. And we lock those away. And we become what someone else wants us to become. We become a pleaser. And we continue to use that solar plexus as a way of refining as we grow up. Oh, now I'm with this family, or I'm with this culture, or this, I have to refine who I am. And we're very proud of ourselves. Look, I can become anything, but we are not ourselves. And what's happening now, and I know that's what you're probably moving into, is we are breaking out of fitting in. We're saying, there is a higher part of me, or a more expansive part of me, or a more extraordinary part of me that's saying, I can't do this anymore. That even if it means abandoning my family or being rejected by my family, I can't abandon myself anymore. And that's the extraordinary awakening that's happening, where I'm sure everybody in the audience listening, through especially the last 2 years, has said, you know, I cocooned into myself and found there were parts of me that I wasn't even expressing. And that even though none of us wanted to go into lockdowns and everything, we were allowed to then make choices about, you know, when I come out of this, these are not the people I resonate with anymore. Even if I don't have a new tribe, I at least resonate with myself. And that's got to be better than where I was.
I love what you're bringing here. And there's so much richness to what you just described. And that is a challenging process. I mean, I myself have had to make those difficult decisions to leave people behind who, you know, are no longer in resonance. There's an immense amount of grief that happens when you do that. There's also some freedom, you know, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about those two, you know, emotional dichotomies, right, that we go through when we make these kind of life choices.
And the grief is really important. And the image I have received very recently was that we can stay on the bottom of the ocean. And what I say, we can feed the bottom feeders with our fears, with our guilt, with our anxiety. But what's happening is the light that's coming into this planet at this time, some people call it photon rays or cosmic rays or divine light, whatever you want to see, but it's being intensified because the sun is also waking up and our magnetic field is really weak around the earth. So we are being bombarded with this amazing light, which I visualize because I've swum with the dolphins in Hawaii, like the shimmering on top of the tops of the waves, where you can see, or even when you're down in the ocean, you see this light reflected off the water. Some of you may have had that experience. And so it's almost like when you're down at the bottom and you're being saying, I want to go to the light, you know, and we're not talking about the light. We're saying, I want to go to the surface. I want to experience myself. And we are all going through that experience of then, oh, but if I do that, then I have to let go, not just of family, not just of friends, but of a belief system, a script that we have maintained for so long. And any of us who've been through divorces or deaths or redundancies or illness or the illness of a child, we go through those griefs. We maybe have a child, you know, we give birth to a child and the child is not as we expected. Or they may have a handicap, or we may have thought our marriage was going to last forever. And boy, here we are. And we don't really like the person that we're married to. And we go through this amazing grief. It's a grief about the person, but more importantly, it's about the grief of our idealized romance with life, our belief. That's what we grieve. So we go over and over. What could I have done to keep that dream going, that script? And the answer is, it's finished. You can stay in the marriage, but we're all being asked to let go of something we might have held on to for not just decades, but lifetimes. So every belief is coming to the surface. Again, I could say they're coming into the light. Why do you think you're here? I'm here for service. Well, maybe you're not. You know, do I believe in a God? Well, maybe you do, but what is that? So everything that's given us a security blanket, every belief that's given us a security blanket is now coming up for grabs. And I say, you know, is that belief coming from love or fear? is it drowning you, or can you let it go? And it's not letting go of everything, but everything is being looked at now in a sense of, does this nurture me? Does this allow me to grow? Does this expand me? Does it allow me to be extraordinary? Or does it just keep me stuck in a, well, if I don't do this, I'll feel guilty, or I really should be there, or who could I be if I wasn't this? Those small talk that we come from the personal mind, the higher mind, as we might say it, is saying, I'm not going to be small anymore. You can worry about the bottom of the ocean, but come and join me at the top now.
That's such a beautiful metaphor. And I love how you're talking about the two aspects of mind, our personal mind, and then this universal consciousness, whatever different people may call that. I'd love to hear you talk more about how those work together. How can we create that? We have a lot going on in our personal minds. We do very much depth of processing, and we look at all the angles and so forth. But then, there's this other part that knows where we're supposed to be and where we're going.
And exactly what you're saying there, Bevan, what I've come to understand, my higher mind, I might call it, because I think if we go into a universal mind, we're even further out. So I'm just staying with my higher mind, which has this connection to the universe. But my higher mind comes in with a plan. It's got the blueprint. And its job is to hold me as close to that blueprint as possible. And so through my heart chakra, which has that knowingness as well within it, the two of them say, okay, let's drop an idea into Christine's mind, maybe during her sleep state, or when she's showering, which is often when we hear our intuitive inspirations. And that's why we call it an inspiration. We go, and then we're going to use the personal mind to organize how this is going to happen. And through that personal mind, we could put the emotions, we could put the physical world. So it's literally, I've got a plan, and then we give it to the planner, that is our personal mind, to bring together all the tools that are needed to follow the plan. And then the emotion puts it into action, energy in motion. And then we go, oh, look, I've done it. And then we reflect on it and we say, oh, okay. So we have a feeling that comes back to us and we go, oh, that was quite good. And then we have a thought and we go, oh, I can see that matches up with a higher plan. And then we send that to the higher plan and we're all happy, because that's what we're meant to be doing. That's the creative process, to have the idea, to put it into action and then let it go, because it enriches our being. We have seen who we are. The downside is when the personal mind takes over. And when the personal mind says, I don't care what my plan is, that I'm just going to continue this pattern, we call them beliefs or thought forms, without any access to that abandoned higher mind. And the reason that happens, I've come to understand, it happens more when we've been traumatized. So when we get into survival mode and we talk about the base chakra is, how do I fit in? And then the solar plexus, I've got to know what's going on. So when we're in that survival mode that doesn't want to hear anything else and wants to just keep saying, I've got to do this because otherwise, then we switch off our connection to the higher mind, which is through the throat chakra. So an idea may come down, gets to the throat chakra, and the throat chakra says, I haven't got time for that. We're not going to be doing that. So we just run the system almost between our solar plexus base chakra, and nothing else changes. And obviously, the more distressing the trauma, the more we literally have to do this to survive. And that's, of course, and then it plays on that guilt, that fear, that anxiety, and it's very hard to get out of that hamster wheel. But there are often times, and the strange thing is, it can often be a greater trauma that breaks us out of that. And that's what I see with illness. Sometimes someone says, oh, I can't leave my job because I've got to, and then all of a sudden they get so sick. It's like they get that gap where the higher mind says, so is this what you want to continue feeling and be doing? So I see illness as an opportunity for changing our lives to become whole. And I think that's what I'm seeing. Sometimes we become so compressed that we go, there's got to be another way. And I'm sure everybody listening has had that experience, that wake-up call that might have been very distressing, a death of a loved one, but it's like, if that hadn't happened, I would not be now listening to my higher mind.
Yes, indeed. I can really relate to that because it was an illness about 5 years ago that led me to really pursue this path and to be serving empaths and HSPs. So exactly, I probably would have thought, oh, I need to stay in this corporate job. I need to continue to work 65 hours a week. And then something comes in and says, no. And I love that you make this distinction between personal mind and personal higher mind, right?
Yes.
Versus collective mind. There's these layers of the way that the intuition flows in with us. Yeah. So what I hear you talking about is that higher mind is really multidimensional. Would that be a true statement?
It would. And I feel that then we come into rhythm and ritual and resonance, which is, again, one of my favorite subjects at the moment. And how, ritual, so lots of people do ritual. But I often say, why? And I've been, in this field for all my life. Are you doing this because is it aligning to your own rhythm? Because ritual is rhythm. So if we are aligning to a rhythm, we're then saying, what is that rhythm you're putting out? What is are you resonating with a deeper truth? So that I would say, fine, light a candle, but is it your rhythm? What is happening inside you when you do that? And what needs to say is that candle, you don't have to think of it, but it resonates with something deep within me that I may not know about. Now, maybe I'm hoping I'm making this clear, but if we just take simple rituals, which might be, you get up in the morning, do you make coffee first? Do you shower? Do you take the dog for a walk? We all have simple rituals, and we do the same at the end of the day. And we say, well, why do I do those? Because it sets the rhythm for the day. So all I'm saying is, when we have a ritual, whatever that is, make sure that it's in setting the rhythm for you, your rhythm. The meaning for this is what Christine is going to vibrate out into the world. This is her vibration. And I think that's where things become more simple when we allow that self to say, actually, Christine's going to vibrate the energy of pleasure. So she's not going to go on the computer as soon as she wakes up. She's going to sit with a cup of coffee and read a book, So it's really asking our intention would be another word that some people, you might want to use. But I remember Jonathan Goldman saying that intention plus frequency equals healing or wholeness. So in other words, it's not enough just to have an intention. You have to literally embody, have an emotional reaction to that intention. So when Christine sits there and she's having such pleasure, I have an intention and I'm setting a frequency for that intention. So that's why they say that saying your prayers out loud or singing a song with both the intention and the energy creates change. So whether that answers, what I'm really saying is that I think that when we start to connect our higher mind to the universal mind, the cosmic mind, whatever, we're literally tapping into that rhythm. And it's that we're now finding much more strength in. People are more interested in aligning to the moon, aligning to seasons, aligning to Celtic seasons. People are saying, wow, I'm feeling there's a rhythm that wants to move through me. And that rhythm is not just, as I say, just a song. It's actually got an intention in it. So once we start to align to that higher mind, we start to align to a beautiful rhythmic energy of the cosmos that's saying, you are part of this, and it's time for you to allow yourself to express all that you are.
One of the beautiful rituals that I do frequently is to draw oracle cards, and one of my favorites is called the Grand Symphony, where it has all these different instruments playing, sometimes harmoniously, sometimes not, but we each have our own instrument, we each have our own rhythm.
Beautiful.
And there could be things that other people do that work for us, or they might not, at any time. So I love what you're talking about here is really one, paying attention.
Yes.
So why am I doing this, right? And the second is, okay, do I want to do this? Does this feel good for me? Does this bring, a greater frequency into my life? Or is it just something I've been doing out of habit or out of guilt or whatever, which kind of goes back to our earlier part of the conversation.
It's exactly that, Bevan. Absolutely. Thank you for saying that so clearly, because it really is, am I doing this out of fear or am I doing it out of love? And love is not, oh, I love doing this. It's more about this connects me more fully. Love is a connecting energy. So when I see people doing something, I say, why are you doing that? Well, what if there's bad energies around? Or what if it's all like, okay, so you're really attracting those bad energies because you are constantly thinking about them. So you're thinking about the bad energies and doing a ritual for them is causing the manifestation. So the same thing, if I sit on my chair and say, I want more pleasure, I attract more pleasure. And that's all it is. We're all manifesting all the time. And that's why the intention is so important. Not just, I want to bring in peace and love. But if we're bringing in peace and love because we believe the world is in a bad state, that's what we bring in. So we have to be really clear of our intention. What's the emotion, the energy emotion I'm bringing to this experience? Fear. So I might say to someone, why are you taking these vitamins and minerals? They say, just in case I get sick. Okay, don't take them. You've already become sick. That's the craziness of the world we live in at the moment. Doing something from fear will only ever exacerbate that which we fear.
Yes. Yeah. So what I hear you talking about is this vibrational resonance. And you've also spoken about kind of our purpose, that different people have a different purpose. Some people serve and some people have other purposes here. How are those two pieces connected? When we're setting up this vibrational frequency and then we're following what we're meant for, why we came here, who we're meant to touch, for example, like how do those things connect with each other?
Okay, so this is going to be maybe out there, but I don't think so for this audience. There is nothing out there. There's nobody that needs your help. There's no planet that needs saving. It's all a hologram. So if you want to do something, you do it because it's going to enrich you, not because someone else needs you. And that you might say, wow, but every time, and this is what I'm really trying to put across here, every time we say the world is in a bad space, we are just literally exacerbating that message. So in our power to serve, I would say we're only serving our higher self. That's good. So if I just love helping other people, I'm doing it because I just love doing it. I enjoy doing that, but not because it's actually influencing someone else. That's hard for us to understand. But every time I say, I just love helping other people, I might have the caveat in there that's saying, because other people need my help because they're so poor and they can't do it without me. And that's the hard one. I mean, I've had to face that as a doctor, which is, what do you mean people don't need me? How can they live their lives without me? Because I have that strongly in my astrology chart, that I'm in service. I'm responsible for everybody. But in the other way is everybody needs me. So this is really important. And I know I might be, bursting bubbles, but I'm really saying is do whatever you want to do, but do it because you actually enjoy doing it. And there is no comeback. You don't need someone to approve of you. And some people say, how do I know it's my intuition? Would you do the same thing with nobody watching? Would you do it without any approval, just because this is the fun? And that's why people talk about follow your passion, follow your bliss. It's not about the world. And one of the beautiful things I heard, and I do listen to Bashar, who's channeled by Darryl Anka, he talked about that the earth is Gaia, which is the consciousness of Mother Earth, that we are just living in one of Gaia's dreams. And when I heard that, I thought of my own dream state. I might wake 2 or 3 times with different dreams. So what he is saying is Gaia has many dreams. Which one do you want to live in? Because we are not the guardians of Gaia. We are Gaia. We are Gaia's consciousness. She has created us in her image. And now we have a choice to say, I've been living in that dream, but I really fancy that dream that Gaia's having. And again, it's not about what it's going to do to other people. It's how am I going to feel more enriched and enlivened So if I want to go and serve everybody and save everybody because it makes me feel great, go and do it, but without any goal or attachment to the result.
Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest thing for empaths, right? Because when you feel other people's suffering, in addition to maybe your own, it can be really challenging to feel like this world is an illusion or a dream. It can feel very real, can feel very dense and intense. And I know in my situation and many people I've worked with, serving is where we feel like we belong, right? When we come back to what you and I first talked about is like, what are we doing to try to belong, to try to be a good person, to try to be a philanthropist, to be an activist, whatever that may be, however we resonate. And it's really challenging to then turn that external focus internally and say, I get to have pleasure. I get to pursue things that I want to do, that I love to do, that light me up. And it might not be easy necessarily to get there. There's lots of steps and there's grief and there's things we've already talked about. But yeah, that's a big change, a big shift in mentality for many, many highly sensitive people, wouldn't you say?
And it's such a waste of their energy. Going down that path of continually feeling that you're here to stop the suffering of others, you don't know how extraordinary you are. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be an extraordinary healer. But when we get involved with other people's drama and believe that we are there to help that, all we often do is drown ourselves. You might hear me saying all of this and say, well, what does she know? I'm the person who's always felt everybody's suffering much more. And I'm a doctor. I hid for the first 11 years of my life because I was so overwhelmed with the pain of this planet and the people. And then when I was 11 onwards, I started just fainting because it was the only way I could get away from the distress of others. So it was the craziest thing that I should ever think of becoming a doctor. Because, hey, people suffer there. But my higher self said, if you're really here to help people, you cannot keep fainting. You have to find a way of helping in a way that doesn't mean that you take on the suffering of other people. You can't do this. And I didn't then become less caring, but I stopped caring about my pain when I'm in the presence of other people's suffering and really got involved with what I had to do for them. Because the part of us as an empath is, because we are so overwhelmed with their emotion and their fear and everything else that we pick up, we then say, please stop suffering because you're upsetting me. And that's, if I just take it on a very simple level, someone's crying, I'll be the first person to pass the tissue over, because what I'm saying is, please stop crying, you're upsetting me. So to me, my fainting, my overwhelm with emotion was really, and I would call it for myself, was self-indulgent. I wasn't helping those other people. I was really trying to help myself. And I had to live in a place where instead of taking on their suffering, I had to sit with it, which to me is the real meaning of compassion. Can I listen to your story? Can I feel what you're feeling without feeling that I have to take it on or I have to save you? Because many a time, as you're talking about grief, sometimes we have to go into the depths of despair and really thinking I cannot, before we make that choice to swim to the surface. So if I'm just trying to keep everybody happy or fix their problem as soon as they start to suffer, I'm not helping them at all. And I think far too healers and psychologists and doctors really are able to go into the darker realms of someone's existence because they're so scared of going there themselves, they don't go. And that's a big answer for you, but I am saying is we as sensitives need to understand that our greatest gift is compassion, which means, can I sit with you despite everything that's going on, not judge you, because when we do try to fix someone, we're really judging them. Can I sit with you and can I actually be in your pain, but not take it on? And can I do my own work that says, where do I have a need? Where is this affecting me? And when we're with someone, may not be a client, therefore, where someone is very upset in our family, we can voice it and we can say, I sense your, how can I help? Which is really one of my favorite questions. How can I help? And if they say, I don't need your help, then back off. They don't need your help. And I think for any of us who are therapists or, helpers or healers, don't become your partners or your family's healer or helper or therapist. Send them to someone else. You are not in the best place to help them. You're probably the worst person. So I know that's a big answer, but I'm passionate about this because I've been in this all my life. So I've been a 45-year-old, doctor, but before that I was also in the healing profession. So I'm not talking from an unobjective place. I'm talking about a passionate place of my own journey of having to say, why are you so involved with this? And I think we all need to do that.
Yeah, I think what you're bringing is such a powerful message. And, there probably will be people listening who have resistance. I mean, I certainly did. I was like, no, this is what I need to do. I need to transmute other people's energy. And that is not why we're here. It's so powerful. And what I would love to hear, Christine, if you're able to share this, is what helped you make that transition from feeling, sitting there with someone who's suffering and then being so enmeshed in all of their stuff and wanting them to stop because it's hurting me too, versus learning how to hold that compassionate space that you're speaking of. Could you give maybe just one or two tips about what to do in those circumstances?
And I understand, again, if this is your journey, if this is what brings you, and I've got to say, if this is what allows you to grow and expand, keep going. I think I have worked with healers again all my life, and many a time they told me I don't need to do my inner work because I'm just bringing through the light of Jesus or God or whatever. And I'd say, yes, but if you pour clean water into a rusty pipe, it comes out rusty. And so I think it's inherent in all of us to look inside. And if at the end of that, here I am, I'm still helping people. I'm still out there in the world. It's my greatest passion. And I often say to someone, they say, oh, you don't love me. I said, I love you 1,000 times more than you love yourself. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think that is the biggest gift. When do we love someone enough to say enough? Or I'm not going to do this more. Love isn't about just keep putting energy in. So, have I had those moments? Absolutely. I've traveled the world. Traveled internationally, and I've heard the most horrendous stories of people's the most deepest wounds that one could ever imagine, emotional, physical, etc. And I realized that my job wasn't to try and patch. That's not what those patients or those clients wanted from me. They wanted me to listen and not judge. Now, that may not be everybody's journey. Now, that person may later on, because I'm also a homeopath, said, well, is there a homeopathic remedy? Or, is there healing? But I had to not stop the process because it was upsetting me. And my job was, how do I both listen and then reconnect this person to their soul or their higher self that has been, saying, I'm here. Because often it's only in our darkest moments that we actually listen to that. And I know that's big, but you were asking me, there was no small event. I've seen thousands and thousands of people around in my life, and they weren't all, they were seriously ill or seriously wounded. And I hope that the greatest gift I gave them wasn't to say, let me transmute what you're feeling, but for them to be able to say, help me to connect to something more important to me deeper inside. And that was where their courage came from. That's where their power to desire to change. Because I think sometimes when we stop it too early, they haven't got that courage. They just, we're almost saying, don't go there. Sometimes people have to fall apart to be able to break through.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. What really strikes me about what you're saying is that we can then affirm that every person we come into contact with is as strong as we are, as resilient as we are, as capable, in some way, shape, or form of accessing their higher self. I mean, that's really where it's all at, right? That's what we want.
And you're talking to the soul, that's exactly that. I say, I hear the personality and I love it and I listen to it, but you're saying, come on, soul. And I've asked people, I've sat on so many hospital beds and said, what is it you need from me? Thinking they're saying, can you take away my pain? Can you make my cancer go away? It's not that. No, they're simple things often. Well, it might be, can someone look after my cat, which is a very loving experience. But I think sometimes we assume someone wants us to take away their pain or that. But often it's not that. It's like, what would make you feel whole? And having worked with AIDS patients, for instance, I can remember this man saying, he didn't want me to cure his AIDS. He said, just can you take me out to the sun so I can feel the sun on my body? That will make me know I'm alive. And I think we're going back to ritual and resonance, where we're saying, what brings us alive? And you and I, who hopefully are healthy, every day we need to say, what am I resonating with that brings me alive? The sun shining, the rain pouring, the rainbows. Every day, every morning, if we can connect, not even connect to something, if I may say, ethereal, something here on earth. What is beautiful? What makes you know that you're alive here on earth? That's what we need to be doing. And even if the rest of the day is awful, you've connected at that level to this cosmic energy, this beautiful cosmic rhythm that's happening, and you take that into your world every day.
And as sensitives and empaths and intuitives, we deserve to have that resonance.
I've got to say, when we walk in and we are in touch with that, it's better than any other healing that we can ever do. You might not want to hear that, but I always felt that, if you were brought up in the Christian church, Jesus never healed anybody. Everybody was healed in his presence. So when we are the presence of love, when we hold that energy, everybody we meet, like a tuning fork, is being entrained to connect to their higher self. Our job is to entrain others through our own light. And we develop that light by saying, I hide nothing, I am everything. It's as easy as that.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. And I know that you have an incredible offer for the people who are listening to help us move even closer into that resonance. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be including in this summit?
Well, I offer one of my first MP3s, which was Relaxing into Health. And it really is a body-centered energy. And hopefully I've put over the idea that being in our body is actually where we need to be. So when I talk about resonating, it's, do you know your feet are on the ground? Have you sent roots into the earth? Do you feel the flowers that you like around you? So the more we're in our body, the more powerful we are. So I talk about relaxing into health is relaxing into your body. Then I have 3 other little meditations. One is becoming a tree. Again, a very rooting and grounding exercise. One's meeting your happy inner child, and one's going, yes, to a healing temple. But everything I'm about is not leaving our bodies. It's about recognizing the body is perfect for the journey we're in. And the body is changing. So lots of people are feeling symptoms of change. I'll just say that as our body is being rewired or upgraded for this energy that's coming in, not from outside, but we are expanding ourselves. So our body has to accommodate this higher frequency that we're bringing into our bodies.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to listen because I definitely want to be a tree. By my background. Tree hugging is one of my favorite activities.
Wonderful.
For sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and of course the link will be included to be able to download this in the summit materials, so everyone can take advantage of that and really tap into Christine's meditations and visualizations and help you to embrace this part of yourself that can seek out that which resonates with you. And hold space without taking on these other responsibilities. I have just loved our conversation so far today. I would love for us to sort of complete this journey. If you could share with us, with everyone who's listening, how do you begin? Like, say you're a person who has long been really worried about what other people think about you, or twisting yourself around to try to fit in, or trying to save the world or everyone. And I've been guilty of that. How can we change? We can begin to shift and let go of these outdated behaviors that sort of block our extraordinary gifts, our light here on this planet.
No, thank you. I know a lot of you will already have ways bringing white light around yourself, putting yourself in a golden bubble, which I enjoy, above and below, but not doing it from fear. So you're saying, I'm putting this golden bubble because I want to express into the world this wonderful energy. So it's not about protecting yourself, trying to move away from the idea of needing to protect yourself. It's more about, this is the energy I want to express. Secondly, I know many of you will be reading people, what we do, especially as women. I know there'll be men listening, but we read people before they've even come into the room. And then we take that energy in, and part of a female cycle is to transform people. So it's often a natural cycle to try and change people. So we often act as a vacuum cleaner, taking their energy so that they can become a different person. That's just part of that female cycle. But if we can just be more mindful of, yes, I might be sensing this person is not happy. And instead of going in with your vacuum cleaner or doing something, just stop. Maybe write it down or ask them. If we can just stop that process of feel, fix, that would be wonderful. So we can just say, hey, I'm sensing you're not happy. And if they say, I'm perfectly fine, say, thank you for letting me know. I'm going to work with myself. So either they've triggered something in me, or I need to back away from this person. All right. So it's really just, if we can just stop long enough not to go into feel and fix, that would be fantastic. And rooting yourself, I'm a great believer in not just grounding, but sending roots into Mother Earth, deep into Mother Earth. It's one of the meditations I've also worked with at times. I think it's on my YouTube. But just to say is, more rooted is our sense of belonging. Once we root into Mother Earth, we go, I don't need to belong to a tribe in order to feel okay about myself, because that's what happened. We got disconnected from that. Once we root ourselves as a tree, we start to say, well, now I belong to something much bigger, which is Mother Earth and the cosmos. I don't need this tribe to give me approval for who I am. My final thing I'll say is this resonance, trusting our bodies. And I think too often we use that mind, or even our solar plexus, our sensitivity. So even just in things like food, we might say, I've got to eat this food because they tell me it's good for me. Ask your body, is this what you want? So listen to the body. The body knows what you need. And I think we've become so out of touch with that body sensation because it's overwhelmed by the feeling sensations. So being more aware, going out into your backyard, your garden, and wherever, saying, which tree is calling me? Which tree is not calling me? Which color is calling me? And being aware of the synchronicities, like the hummingbirds coming to you and going, look at that. When I'm in this alignment, then this happens. I say this to finish with saying is, once we start to become more aware, we start to become more aware of the people who we don't resonate with, or the news, or the whatever. And we go, this doesn't feel like it did when I was hugging a tree. This doesn't feel like it was when I was sitting with my cup of coffee. I don't need to resonate with that anymore. Oh, I don't resonate with it. And that's what's shifting. People are changing their families, or let's say groups, and saying, I really appreciate what you've done, but it's no longer part of my frequency, and I'm going to move on. And that's what discernment is.
I love what you said there at the end, which is, thank you for what you brought into my life, but it's no longer working. And I think sometimes in order to cut that off, we think, it has to be harsh. It has, and maybe it does sometimes, but we can also be appreciative of the season that a person or a job or a home or anything has come through our life, and now it's time for something different. And my takeaway from all of this, Dr. Page, is disrupting the feel/fix cycle and saying, okay, I can feel, and I'm going to feel, and I'm always going to feel, and pick things up but it's not my responsibility to fix this for someone else. I have plenty, to be paying attention to with my own life and my own energy field. So,
can I just say one more thing, Bevan? Because
please, yes, please.
Again, as an intuitive, a sensitive, we often perceive we know what other people are feeling and what they want in life, especially if you have any Piscean energy. And that might be true. We see their potential. We think we know we might know their potential. And we often create a world for them to put them into that ability to create that potential. When something has ended, we also have this tendency to say, even though it's dying, we say, what can I do to make it keep working? So I meet many intuitives who said, why didn't I notice this was breaking apart 6 years ago? And I think that's another thing to do a reality check, that just because we're holding on to a vision of what this relationship or this situation would be, it may not be that the other person is even in that same world as you. And that when we break up from something or someone, we assume, because we're in their world, that they're going to feel what we think they're going to feel. So another thing to make sure we do is to say, hey, I think it's time that we separated, or whatever, we had some time apart. And they may say, great, I've been thinking that for 4 years. And you're like, what?
Oh, okay.
So my last thing I will say, and I've said last, but I say to myself every night, I say to my higher self, close all the doors that are not in harmony with my soul and leave open or open those that are. And when something happens the following day, I thank them for serving me in a better way than I might when I'll hold on rather than experience the grief that I know may come. So trust the universe loves you, trust they want you to really succeed, and tell them to close the doors. And even if you grieve because that door closed, you know they loved you, and this is the next step to take.
And that is exactly where we'll leave this beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for your grace, lending your wisdom and experience to this event, and just reaching out and touching the hearts of everyone who's listening right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bevan. Thank you, Shift Network.
And we appreciate all of you who are tuning in and spending time here to really focus on your own spiritual and personal evolution. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon.